It's Black Music Month, and we have a treat for you on this June edition of Boomer and the Millennial. We have an interview with the artist responsible for the show music you hear each and every month, the Dangerfeel Newbies.
That's right. And let's not forget, we just celebrated Juneteenth and Father's Day, so naturally, happy Father's Day to my favorite Boomer.
Well, thank you, Armandi. And also on this episode, Trump catches a case, or should I say 34 of them. And what happened to the red box video kiosks? And the college football championship game comes back to Atlanta in 2025. And all I can say is, for you Bulldogs fans, let's hope for a better outcome this time. I'm Reggie the Boomer.
And I'm Armani the Millennial. And welcome to the Black Music Month edition of Boomer and the Millennial. And you know, we are back at it like a crack addict.
Yes,
what is going on, everyone? Welcome back. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you so much. It's summertime. And as you hear underneath the music of the Dangerfeel Newbies, and we are so happy that we've got Jamal Ahmed and Mark Angel coming up in this edition. We're going to talk to them about their music and particularly about the song you're hearing right now. But before we get into that, happy Juneteenth, Armandi.
Happy Juneteenth.
So you do anything special? I know I did.
Juneteenth?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Work.
Yeah, same. You know, I was out here, slaving away.
Yeah.
I may be free, but your boy was slaving away on Juneteenth. But I did
Nobody knows.
Right, exactly. It's like that. It's like that clip. Hey, what's up, brother? Struggle is up, brother. Oppression is up, brother.
Yeah.
Right. I just worked, and then I did make time and a half, which was nice. You know, at least black men can do that on Juneteenth.
They gave you time and a half on Juneteenth.
They sure did. Everybody got time and a half, not just me. So, But we also had a fire drill in the building.
Oh, okay.
On Juneteenth. So, I got to spend some of it. Sitting on my butt. So that was nice. Getting paid time and a half.
Good.
Which is how a black man should be spending Juneteenth. Now let me stop. But yeah.
So, it was cool. It helps when you pull a fire alarm too.
Yeah, that always does the trick. Nah, I'm just little trade secret.
Right. I want to thank you also for my Father's Day gift.
Yeah,
you and your mom, and
happy Father's Day. Yeah.
And Nia and Winston and I guess Eddie. Everybody chipped in and got me a brand new iWatch. No, do you call it iWatch?
No, it's not. It's an Apple Watch. How dare you?
Okay, I got an Apple Watch. Thank you. I'm sorry.
To
get to
Are you wearing it right now?
Yeah, I got it on right now, man. It's great. It's got a larger face. Yeah. I can tap different things.
Yeah, that's usually what you do.
And for some reason, Siri is like, taking dictation because everything I'm saying.
Yeah.
She's like, recording it.
I won't respond to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please don't. But anyway, no, it's really nice. And of course, you can see I've quite not learned how to use it yet. So.
Okay, you'll figure it out.
But I will say thank you so much, because the last one I had, I was in a meeting, and I reached down in my backpack, pulled something out. I think it might have been a pen or something at the bottom. When I pulled my hand out, like the watch had all kind of stuff, the guts hanging out of it.
That's crazy.
Where's the face? The face was like in the backpack.
That's crazy.
I took it to
for a new one.
Yeah, I took it to the geniuses, and they told me, man, I tell you,
it's time for a new one.
It's time for a new one, right? So thank you so much. I appreciate
they only
that.
do but so much. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to learning all of the ins and outs of this new Apple Watch, not iWatch, folks. That's a Boomer thing.
It's okay. You'll get there.
We did talk about Black Music Month is this month. And again, we are looking forward, just in a few minutes, we're going to be interviewing Jamal and Mark about their music, about the Dangerfeel Newbies, how they got their name. Just really, really great interview that we did actually a couple of days ago. So, but on your front, you went to a concert, not the Stallion.
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah. I don't know why you always make it a note of that. That's every time you mention Meg the Stallion. Nia and I and our friends Cash and Dre, we went to Monday night. We went to the Meg the Stallion. I believe it's the Hot Girl Summer Tour. and Glorilla was also there and opened up
not
for her.
Glorilla.
Oh, I love Glorilla. I love her music. That's how for those of you who don't know, that's how people in Memphis say music. They replace the U with an R.
Right.
So her music, and but yeah, it was a great concert. It was a great concert. Meg did her thing. Glow did her thing. She brought a lot of people on stage. I will be honest. I have never seen so much booty shaking per square inch of an area in my entire life. So it was just everybody. Needless to say, everybody had a good time. It was great. It was great.
That 4.5 on the Richter scale was not really.
Man, let me tell you, look,
an earthquake, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. It was everybody in Ball Arena Monday night. Let me tell you. But no, it was good. It was good. Great performances, great crowd work. It was loud in there though.
Yeah,
so
well, that's par for the course.
Yeah,
that's good.
We had a good time though.
That's good. And you got to walk. You walked to the stadium, right? I mean,
nah, we took an Uber. But we could have we're close enough to walk to Ball Arena, but we ended up taking an Uber. But yeah, so we could have walked back. We were waiting for an Uber after it ended and everything, and it was only like a 15-minute walk. But it is what it is. So, but we had a good time.
That's good. All of you know that Trump was indicted on 34 charges in New York, and so now he's going to appeal and things are going to happen. But he is now a convicted felon. So I saw my first commercial with talking about the first political commercial with him as a convicted felon. That infamous shot of him, his mugshot at Fulton County.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about
on the screen. So I was like, so here we go. As we get ready for another election season, things don't look too good for Biden. Biden's kind of, even with the conviction and stuff, Trump raised like $50 million. Like, why can't a brother get convicted and raise $50 million? Of course, now he says he identifies with black folk, right? Because he's now a convicted felon.
Exactly. That's crazy.
That is so messed up.
That's so crazy.
It's like, I'm like you, man.
That's so bad.
It's something wrong with that. But anyway, we will be having your friend Gabe, your colleague from pre-K 3, who's now
way back. Yeah,
both grown up, married, and he is also big into politics and social justice, and we're going to get him on to talk about things that are happening out there as we get ready for November. A lot of times when you vote, they have recalls because something goes wrong with the voting, and so this is my segue into recalls, because there's like a red box recall, because they have recalls on your car too, right? And food, and now red box. Have you seen any red boxes? Do they have them in Denver?
No, now that I think about it, I haven't seen one in quite some time. So I don't know.
Well,
I doubt it.
The ones that are still out there have big signs on them saying that they're out of order. Basically, the company that owns Redbox is sort of on the ropes, and they are not paying commissions. They're not paying for new movies. So essentially, the Redboxes are just kind of sitting there, big red, doorstops, I guess. But they don't have the money to pick them up. So.
Right, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, but I had a solution. I was just telling your mom they should paint them like a real soothing color, and then put them in like senior citizen homes, and facilities, and you can go and they're old movies anyway, so it's like
and they can just pick what they want.
Right? Yeah. They don't have to pay. They just hit the button. Gives them a little bit of that electronic thing going on, and they take it. And old folks, we still got CD players and we still got DVDs. A lot of boomers, I know. I know y'all still rocking the DVDs and the CDs.
It's time to let it go, though. It's time to let it go.
I know. The streaming thing, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. So Redbox, which I remember back in the day, not that long ago. It's nice.
It was all the rage, man.
Yeah, $1.99, get you a DVD. Blu-ray is about $2.15, and every now and then you get a BOGO on that or special. So long to Redbox. I don't think they'll be coming back, and
I highly doubt they'll be missed
by some of us. It'll be missed by the boomers, you know. Yeah, millennials, y'all don't. Yeah, you know, ain't no young people going to Redbox. But anyway, I just wanted to let the boomers know that's happening, so you won't be disappointed. Don't put that Redbox run on your schedule. So now we are really happy to have Jamal, Ahmed, and Mark Angel, founders of the Dangerfeel Newbies. Their music is fresh, it's different, and we had an opportunity to sit down and talk to them about their music, about their inspiration, about some of the songs, and in particular the song you hear at the opening and closing of each episode of our show. And we think that you'll really enjoy, finally, you know, Armani, we've been talking about this for about a year. We've
been trying to get this interview done for a while now.
Right. So finally, coming from the Jazz 91.9 FM studios in Atlanta, and also the KPVU FM studios located in Prairie View, Texas, we now bring you Mark Angel and Jamal Ahmed of the Dangerfeel Newbies. Thank you, Mark Angel and Jamal, for coming on, and as we celebrate Black Music Month. And man, I tell you, we hype y'all every week, every show. We like, you know, Dangerfeel Newbies. Yeah, we're gonna get them on. And so now you are here, and we just thank you, because I know both of you guys are real busy. So we appreciate y'all.
Yes, thank you guys.
And man, I'm telling you.
Yeah, you know, we're definitely excited. So we're just gonna dive right into it. Dangerfeel Newbies. First of all, when you hear the name, when I first heard the name, I wasn't quite sure what it meant, where it came from, what's going on. It's, you know what I mean? It's a bit of a mouthful. What's happening? So first and foremost, how did the group come together? Who are the Dangerfeel Newbies? How did you guys come together? How did you guys start, you know, this group, and where did the name come from? Let's do some backstory here.
Well, I think Mark and I can talk about that, but I'll start it and Mark can finish it.
Okay.
So yeah, you know, Mark and I have been friends since we were super young. I think we've been friends. Wow. What time did you get to, how old were you when you got to Clark, Mark?
Probably about 18.
Yeah, so I had to be about 20. At the time. So we were really young when we first met, and we've always been brothers, you know, always been brothers in radio and jazz, and worked in this professional capacity for many years since the mid 90s. But I came up with the concept because, you know, we both are producers. You know, Mark has been doing his own production. He's been part of different bands. I think, what was the crew you were with? Adams Morgan
Band. We were doing some things back in the late 2000s. The whole group was from the DC area, whether it was the DMV.
Yeah, the 301.
Yeah, right. You know, 301, 202, 240. And, you know, so it was good to bring kind of that go-go vibe, and that's kind of some of that go-go vibe is what DC kind of has. You know,
got you. Oh, you know, I was just gonna say, it's interesting because you talk about that, you know, that go-go vibe then, but as someone who went to a boarding school up in Philly, there was I had a lot of friends who were from the DMV area, from DC. You know, that's how I know 301. There was a group, they used to shout it out all the time, 301, 301. And so they would even talk about go-go, you know, this was 10 years ago, but, you know, even talking about what it is now, or then, right? So to hear that was a thing, even, you know, I mean, it makes sense, but like to hear you guys talk about that, and this was years prior to that, is just, that's cool. It's kind of coming full circle.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we just, all of it, all the music is like, we take it all, we're DJs. So we listen to just a wide variety of different types of music, you know. But yeah, we came together, man, back in probably like the mid 90s.
Yeah, it was like we started as friends first, you know what I'm saying, and work colleagues. But I would say about, and you know, during that time leading up to about 2007, 2010, we all were doing like musical endeavors. I was working with, I started an art organization called the Groove Mint. We were like a kind of crew, a
like that
crew. And one of the big artists in the Groove Mint was NDRE. We had people like Donnie, Anthony David.
Oh, okay.
Dana with Avery Sunshine. So we had already been starting a kind of movement here in Atlanta. And then my show was kind of like a sounding board for that movement. I was playing a lot of the neo soul artists and a lot of music from around the world. But it was NDRE who actually told me that I need to get back into production, because I had been doing production when I was 14 years old. And actually I started getting into music when I was 9, when my mother started her boutique record label back in the 80s. So it was like I always wanted to do music, and I started doing production again in the 2000s. And then it led up to 2007 when I was watching Kim Burns' documentary. I know Reggie knows that all too well, the Kim Burns Civil War documentary, which really did a lot for PBS. A lot of people forget that documentary almost dang near saved PBS. But watching it one day in 2000, and it was deep, and I always talk with Mark about it on that day that I saw the doc. It was July 7th, 2007. And so it was a day of like these 777. So we into like spiritual numbers and all that. And I remember watching it, and they were talking about the John Brown Rebellion. And when we get to the John Brown Rebellion, they start talking about a member of his group called the Dangerfeel Newbies. Now, for those who don't, he was called Dangerfeel Newbie. But for those that don't know, John Brown's rebellion at Harpers Ferry, Virginia, was really like the launching pad for the Civil War. It was like this white guy trying to free the slaves. He failed, but he didn't fail because it helped launch the whole Civil War. It was really intense. But the first person to die doing that was Dangerfeel Newbie, a black man. So I heard that name, and that day I remember I heard the name, and I stopped the TV like, what? Whoa. That name got some power. What was that? And so I get on my computer and I look him up, and I start reading about his story with his wife, and he was a blacksmith, and he had fought his freedom, and he was trying to get his wife and 7 children out, and they were given a runaround to join John Brown's party, and he died. But he and his wife exchanged these beautiful love letters, Harriet. So I said, we're gonna start a group. So we had I called a gentleman who was part of the group at the time, DJ. Called DJ and said, hey man, I want to do some stuff. And then called Mark and was like, hey Mark, hey man, you interested in doing some music? And he was like, sure. And I was so happy because I really wanted to get Mark in what we were doing, because I was like, we need good energy in this. And Mark always had great energy, and he knew what he was doing, like production wise. So we got together and started recording the album in it was your apartment. When did your apartment, Mark, up in Buckhead?
Oh yeah. So yeah, we had an apartment over there, right there on Peachtree, and right by Justin's and where the restaurant is. And it was and the thing was, that place had a vibe to it because it was a very old complex. Like it was built like a long time ago, like probably like in the early 1900s or something. Like really like and you could tell the way it was built, because it was built out of like this brick, and it just had a vibe to it. And Jamal was one of those people that, we used to always talk about music. He used to always turn me on to music and different types of music. And I would even make tracks, and I would play sometimes, be like, hey, Jamal, check this out. And Jamal would say, you know what? You got something there, but he would be like, but if you get with some live instruments, that's going to take it to another level. Like he always told me that. And so when the opportunity came around where it was like, hey man, let's work together, I was like, oh yeah, come on, man. And one of the things I would say is that I've recorded, it opened me up to the most types of instruments that I've ever had an opportunity to like be part of, you know what I mean? Recording flutes and recording xylophones, recording different types of instruments that I've never experienced before. And that was one of the things that what kind of opened me up and what I was excited about when we got together.
Gotcha.
I know Mark can attest to this. Is our debut was called Harriet, and Harriet was, of course, the wife of Dangerfeel Newbie. And what we're telling, the album is really a love story. When you listen to it from beginning to end, it's really telling their story, because a lot of people don't understand too. Like when you watch a movie like Django Unchained with Jamie Foxx and Leonardo DiCaprio, done by Quentin Tarantino, that literally is the Dangerfeel Newbie story. I remember seeing Dick Gregory telling folk like, that's the Dangerfeel Newbie story. I remember seeing it and saying, whoa, this is the Dangerfeel Newbie story. So we wanted to honor Black women with that record. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you look at the album cover, there's this graceful Black woman from the Victorian age on it that has that classic look. I mean, if you go to the Smithsonian African American Museum of History and Culture, you can literally see a placard in there from Harriet Newby. They have a placard of a quote that she tells Dangerfeel Newby in that museum. So we, as the Dangerfeel Newbies, we are all about truth. That's our whole mission, is to bring a truth that you don't see in popular music. Even to be referencing a person, a real life person from 1859, shows who we are and what we want to purvey with our culture.
How would you describe the music?
I like to use the term urban alternative soul. It's a blend of jazz, hip hop, funk, blues. It's a go-go. You know what I'm saying? It's a mixture of second line New Orleans music. It's really a blend. It's almost like DJs who are musicians, and we bring that together.
Yeah, I would piggyback and say absolutely, we are like a kind of urban alternative blend. It's kind of hard to pinpoint what we are, but I feel like what we are as a group is kind of like what the future of music will be. And it's not like, we're not trying to say that we are the future of music, but when you look at music and what we are with music, here we are just celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And hip hop was kind of like that last culture to come out of the African American musical continuum, starting with, ragtime, jazz, you go to soul, you go to funk, you go to disco, you go to all that. But hip hop is like the bookend. But here we are celebrating its 50th anniversary, and we were like, well, what will come next? Because, when you look at all those genres that I just mentioned, there was like a 15, 20-year gap in between when they came for another generation. But hip hop literally has been holding on for 50 whole years, which is crazy that for 50 years that has been the music of the youth. So we're like, well, we feel that music at this point is like a kind of, it's like those connect the dot pictures we used to see when we were kids. You would connect the dots and you would see the real picture. We're literally connecting the musical dots. That's what we do, all the time. We'll take you from jazz to soul to house music to funk to, like Mark said, we have a go-go track on our Southern Sons album. And we've been doing like this second line thing with the Sabor Brass Band, who are out of Louisiana, paying homage to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis for the past 3 releases, Mark. I think we've been doing that. Matter of fact, we did 2 of them, and Jimmy Jam himself, the legendary producer, reached out to us and said, hey, can you guys record the song that me and Terry did with Mariah Carey, Somewhat Love? And that's what we released last year. But it was second line New Orleans, and people are like, y'all just do all type of stuff. And I'm like, we don't want to be put into a box.
It really kind of encompasses like the DIY spirit, you know what I'm saying? Like we really are hands-on doing everything. I mean, whether it's being in the studio, whether it's, organizing a session, and artists and bringing them together, writing, and, it's kind of like a booking shows and when Jamal, like when you mentioned the future of music, you mentioned kind of like independent artists. And I think we really are like, we do multiple things. We're DJs, but we also are on the radio. So it's like, just like this other kind of vantage point in a way. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like one of the things that we make our own flyers. We do our own social media. We really are like,
hands on. Yeah.
and everything.
What's so crazy, what Mark is saying is, for a long time, if you look at DIY, and you know pop culture, DIY was always like, and it's so funny, Mark is coming from DC, because in DC you had this very intense punk rock scene. You know, like bands like Bad Brains and all of those folks were performing in DC. And this is, we talk in the 70s and the 80s. But the thing about punk rock that people forget is punk rock is really like your first kind of DIY music. It kind of showed everybody that you got to do your own flyers. Remember those flyers for those punk parties were drawn by the artists. They were handed out by the artists. The artists booked on shows and sets at the time. And they were the ones who showed us the way on how to actually handle everything. And I also had a little help because my mother ran like I said, my mother started a record label in the 80s. And my mother was, she was such an incredible executive, because at the same time she's doing education, working for the U.S. Department of Education, but she loved music. But I learned so much watching her. I saw my mother up late at night, 2 a.m, sending out records and promos to Europe, and we were getting phone calls from people like James Brown, and it was just amazing to see that. But my mom always told me that you're gonna have to make it your way if the corporations don't co-sign you.
That's right. Yeah.
So we saw the model in action. We saw independent artists blowing up, selling 50,000, 100,000 units as independent artists. So we said we can follow suit. And I mean, when we put the record out, y'all, it was amazing. And I don't know if Mark remembers, when we were doing the record, I remember I just kept saying, y'all, some big things gonna happen for us. We're gonna get the licensing. We're gonna get the remixes and all that. We're gonna get on TV. And as soon as we put the first single out, Mark, remember I got that call from Keir Lehman for Viacom. I mean, literally, I think a week after the album came out, and he was a music supervisor for Being Mary Jane. It had Gabrielle Union on it. And he called us and said, we love this song. We want to put it on Being Mary Jane. And that was like a week after the album came out. Wow. The next thing you know, I think 3 weeks after that, we got a call from Japan, from Sweet Soul Records. And they had put out a whole bunch of people like Avery Sunshine, Kim, so many folks. So they asked if they could put our record out, and it was crazy to see us on like the Tower Records display, you know what I'm saying, in Tokyo.
It was, in the record stores over here, but over there they're still going.
They're still going on, right?
Big Dangerfeel Newbies cutout in the store. And we saw a picture of it. I would love to actually go and see it, but we saw a picture of it, and it's like this cutout, and it's us in this picture. And
I'll tell you this though, Reggie. So after we had all that happen, I went to a guy named Kai Alce, a good friend of ours here in Atlanta, a legendary DJ from Detroit, my Morehouse brother. Kai Alce is like well known all over the world as a house DJ and remixer. And I called him up and said, hey, can you remix one of our songs? And he chose What Am I Here For? And that song in itself has done more for our careers than any other song, because we signed a licensing deal with Defected Records, which is the biggest dance label in the world. Matter of fact, the guy who signed us, Andy DeShield, also signed like Coldplay and David Guetta and all these people.
Wow.
So it was a really big thing for us. But that next year after the album came out 2014, 2015, we're at House in the Park here in Atlanta. And House in the Park was the big house event with like 20,000 people, and Kai's DJing, and he puts the song on, and the whole place goes up. And Mark and I are sitting there staring at each other like, it's real now, man. It's real now.
That's us.
We can't dance around that.
That is too cool.
Just to kind of jump back real quick to the public radio kind of discussion you guys were kind of having. Public radio, it's kind of like, it kind of plays a little bit too in the movement of the album, because we had our good sister Rose Scott, who put the album.
Who's been on our show, by the way.
Oh yeah, okay. He's doing amazing things.
Yeah,
and she kind of got the album to somebody else. I believe it was Chris Campbell in Detroit, and that kind of made its way to NPR, because they had a segment, and it was called Heavy Rotation, and it was songs that we can't stop playing. That's what it said. And when they put up the list, all of the lists were like alternative rock kind of white groups, and then you get to the bottom, and there's these brothers. The heavy rotation on NPR, I think, too, was really, really helped us out, and it kind of just showed us how they're trying to even evolve.
We got to ask you about, since we're talking about the songs.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Go ahead, Armani.
No, I was just gonna ask because we use "Swinging with the New Jacks" on the podcast. So I just wanted to ask about that song specifically. Can you give us like a little,
we both got something for that one.
Background or backstory to that particular song, and we love it so much. So
it just had a kind of universal jazz energy, and the thing about us is we were very influenced by the acid jazz era of the early 90s, like the UK acid jazz era, and that one is kind of like our acid jazz song, and it's also a play on words. So Swinging with the New Jacks is really a play on New Jack Swing, which was a style created by Freddie Fowler.
I want to talk more to the title itself. So Jamal had a party, man, back in the day. And the party was called Swing with the New Jacks.
Okay.
Right? And so so I remember he was promoting it, and when he was promoting it, he had this flyer. It was like this. It was like a half a poster. It was kind of like almost like a poster. And I don't know. I just always had it. I always held on to it. And I put it in my studio when I had my studio, and I put it on the back of the door. So you really couldn't see it unless the door was closed, And so we're in there working on, some music. We got to close the door to record vocals. We're closing the door, getting ready to record some vocals. And Jamal just looked at the poster and was like, "Where did you get that?" Because it had happened some years prior. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, "Where did you get that?" And I was just like, "Man, I always kept it from that party that you had." And he went up to the poster and he just started staring at it. Just kind of, I could tell he was like reminiscing, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it kind of leads into another story that we'll get into, but he looked at it and he said, "Man, I remember this." And he was like, "Man, Jay Picola." He was like, "I remember that." He said, I wonder what's up with Jay Picola, man. What's going on with him?
And he was one of the guys. Well, can I finish that story, Mark? Because that was really deep, actually, because we did that party. So we did that party 2005, and it was so crazy because there were a lot of local Atlanta artists performing on it. And there was a gentleman by the name of Jay Picola Fowles, who was an incredible singer-songwriter, guitarist. And he performed. He was just so good. And then we kind of lost contact with Jay Picola. Didn't hear from him for a long time. And we were recording that song, and we saw that flyer. And I remember saying, "Jay Picola, man, if we could find him, he would be really good for the record." So I say that, right? Now, this was God. This was so crazy. So I said that, and DJ, the other member at the time, he comes from, because he was playing for a church, so he came from his church rehearsal, and he walks into the studio, and he brings somebody with him who's in the choir. And when the person walks in, I just kind of look, and I thought it was Mark, and I'm like, "What's up, man?" Then I looked, and I'm like, "Holy moly, this is Jay Picola standing in front of me."
That's crazy.
I had not seen that man in 7 years. And
Wow.
I said, we could get him, and DJ literally brings him to the studio, and the rest was history. We wrote some really amazing songs together with him. But that's when you know things are just right. You know what I'm saying? With stuff
it was meant to happen. Yeah.
It was absolutely meant to happen. Absolutely.
Wow.
That Mark, thank you for reminding me of that. I forgot all about it.
Oh yeah.
Hearing the song, even that more special to hear the backstory and the connections and how it all came together, man. I tell you, that is pretty cool.
One more thing I want to add about that too is Salim Savad, man. I mean, I remember he came up. We had like 3 flights of stairs, so we had to bring up the xylophones and the pipes and everything. And Salim at the time, he's kind of a big guy. You know what I'm saying? And man, it's like I got this picture of him playing. And it's just like you can tell he's putting his all into it. But right after that, man, he like slimmed down and everything, and he still keeps in touch with us and loves the music. But we made so many connections through that song. I mean, Daryl Reeves, just all those folks that we work with on that song was just
and
amazing.
Nakayo. We got to show love to Nakayo, our percussionist.
Got to show love to Nakayo with the percussionist.
Gotcha.
That played with Patrice Rushen, and that is one of the greats.
Yeah, one of my favorites. Yeah, yeah, wow. And so, speaking of that, would you say the Dangerfeel Newbies is more of a collective, or is it a group of members that you work with all the time?
I think the thing about Dangerfeel Newbies, and we always kind of use the group Soul to Soul as like our kind of example for people, because when you talk about Soul to people don't really know what Soul to Soul was. And you understand the history of Soul to Soul. We keep on moving back to life, all of that. Soul to Soul was a DJ collective that was DJing in London. It was really Jazzy B, the guy you saw with the locks. He was the core, and he had all these other people around him, Karen Willer, the singer, and Simon Law, and a lot of different people around him. So we wanted to create something that was like that, where it's like DJs in the center of the universe who kind of have this musical knowledge that a lot of musicians don't have, but we're also musicians. We are like, I put a post up on Facebook recently. I said, the best music is made by musicians who think like DJs and DJs who think like musicians. People didn't understand what I was saying, but I mean, there's a when you're a DJ, you have this curation kind of mentality where you know how to curate things. And when you know music, you understand the moods and how to do all that. So we kind of can handle all that. So Mark and I are the core of the Dangerfeel Newbies, but we have an extensive family members. We have so many family members all over the world, really, because even when we did the Culture Dawn album, I had my daughter on the cover, which was our jazz record.
I remember,
we had a vibraphonist on that record who was from London, Victor Lawrence, who I met in St. Lucia, covering the St. Lucia Jazz Festival. And so he recorded his vibes in London and sent them to us. So there are just so many people. And even on that record, we had people like Najee, Najee, legendary saxophonist, came and played on that record. And it's had so many different moving parts on that album because it was an all live album. But yeah, we consider ourselves a collective. And the thing is, the Dangerfeel Newbies, we can do a live show for you with a full 7-piece band. We up there singing, shaking our tail feathers, sweating it out, trying to get y'all hype. But then we can do DJ sets. You know what I'm saying? We can do a DJ set. We can also do live DJ PAs where we're just DJing and musicians can play along with us and singers. And you see that a lot in Europe. The core is Mark and I as producers.
Right.
Gotcha.
We're like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. We want to be that good, we don't know we're gonna make their money one day, but we look up to people like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Ellie and Babyface and groups like that.
Right.
It's wonderful.
You use the term universe, Jay, and I say you use the term universe, and I think that's kind of really like when you think about all the different people that we work with, it's like we join forces with all different people, and we almost deliver a sound and a tone to these different artists in a way that you've never heard them before. When you listen to artists, we work with artists like Kathleen Bertrand, and you even heard Julie Dexter, Jamal
on set,
Tony Hightower, and some of the artists that we may know some of their sound, be familiar with their sound, but it's like the things that we do with them is because of our some of our musical mixture of knowledge. It's like. Kind of makes another sound, and so we create this almost extended family of musicians, of artists, of even promoters and and things like that. DJs and all of that. So it's like we really are musicians and lovers of music at heart, but also like wanting to provide a platform for this music.
Is there any one particular song that really sticks out that that has all the elements and everything? I know it's kind of hard, it's hard to ask an artist that question, but we got to ask it.
Yeah,
you mean like
a favorite? Yeah.
Well, I don't know if favorite's the word, but it could be
one that kind of represents us the best.
There you go.
I would say that I'm really proud of the last song that we did, Cool Side, because we kind of stretched a little bit in our, in our usual, how we usually produce and how we usually put things together. And we really wore our musician hats, and where, we really pulled out, because both of us are trained in theory. So it's like we were able to really dig into that hat. I think some of the prior stuff we may have done more producing or more, but this one we were really hands on with the instruments and with the music. We played everything. We had some other musicians add. We worked with artists like John Beal, and he worked with. Cool Side is one of those ones where I'm excited about. The other, we made some other songs too, where we played and we composed, but Cool Side really kind of opens up the possibilities of what we really about to unleash.
Right.
Just on a song that we had before, that's on one of our albums, and that's kind of a hard choice, but it was a song that we did. The song is called Dreams, and we did that song, and it's on the Japanese version of Harriet, of our first album, Harriet, because we had to have 2 extra songs for the Japanese. But I really love Dreams because I don't want to overspeak for Jamal, but I know we're big fans of Donald Byrd, of the Mizell Brothers, of Humphrey, of just that sound, that style, and we had kind of created that with that vibe in mind, and even to the point where we all stood around the mic and some of the Donald Byrd stuff would be like, change makes you want to hustle. We got around the mic and we said, life ain't but a dream.
Right.
And we would like those old men that be sitting on the
corner, right.
So it was just a fun song. We had Dashiell, who's like dynamite trumpeter and musician in his own right, and Dashiell blessed the song, and it was just a really fun song. It reminds me of just a time.
And if I could say one other one that I really think represents us well, I really like the song "Give Me the Sunshine" that we did with Cleveland Jones. And I like that song because of the production. It's very hard to put your finger on what we're doing. I like the sounds that we use. I love Cleveland's delivery, but it was a cover of an old song by a group called Leo Sunship called "Give Me the Sunshine." And what we did was completely change the song. We did it like jazz, just turned it on its head, and we gave it the Afrobeat kind of before the whole Afrobeat thing was really popping. You know what I'm saying? We kind of gave it an Afrobeat thing. But what was crazy is that song is an Atlanta song because that group was from Atlanta. They released that song in '77. Didn't really get a lot of love in the ATL, and I actually learned about the song from Tony Menviel. From Jazz FM in London, who used to be here in Atlanta in the mid-'90s. And he says, Jamal, have you heard of this group, Leo Sunship? And he plays me the song. And I'm like, oh, my God. We're going to do something with that one day. And we did it, and it came off right. But I love Cool Side, though. Like Mark said, Cool Side is the one. Y'all think y'all need definitely to put your ears on it because it's one of those songs where when people hear it, they just feel good. And it's really kind of showing what we're about to do with this new project that we're working on called Sonic Salve that we've been working on for the past 3 years during the pandemic.
Right. So, what's next for you guys? What are you guys working on? What should we be on the lookout for? What's next for the Dangerfeel Newbies?
Well, Armandi, we're going to be, God willing, we'll be putting out the album Sonic Salve.
Okay.
And really, it's interesting because this record, when we started this record at the top of 2021. And so we're still in the midst of the pandemic. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? At the time, things feel very uncertain. You don't know what's about to happen. Right. I think we just got a vaccine at the time, but it was still very sketchy what was about to happen in the future. And so I was going out to Houston still working for Prairie View and going out there with Mark and John Hughes, God bless his soul. And it was just so interesting because before we started working on the record, And remember, Mark, we were listening to when we were watching the Kanye, the Donda stuff. Remember we were watching Donda and all this stuff that had nothing to do with what we were about to do musically.
Right.
But we were inspired by all this pop stuff. Right. And I remember Mark and I having these conversations about the times that we were living in, and we both agreed that this record had to have a intentional healing energy. That people needed to feel something from this project, and they felt something from the other projects, but we needed to be more intentional with this, and that's why we called it Sonic Salve, because a salve is like that thing that you rub. It's like an ointment, that you rub when you're hurting or whatever. So we thought we're going to make a Sonic salve that really gives you that. Yeah, that heals you. It goes in and heals that soul. Yeah. And what's interesting, and I put it on social media just recently, and Mark can attest to this, we're in an era right now where I was saying there are about 4 records out right now by African-American men. Andre 3000, New Blue Sun. Yeah. You've got Little John Roberts, who has a record out called Elevation. Little John, the rapper Little John, has a Total Meditation CD. Oh, wow. It's guided meditation.
I didn't know that.
And Robert Black. Oh yeah, and he's even got a whole new thing called Calm that he's producing. Well, it's a product for calming the nerves and doing that. But Robert Glasper, he has an album called Let Go, and even Rory has a kind of mindful album. And I said, this is so beautiful that Black men are intentionally putting out these records that are about meditation, that are about self-care, that are about self-awareness, because we're the group that has the lowest life expectancy. We're the group that's bombarded by ailments. We are dealing with social things that we're always at the bottom. When you look at pay, when you look at just everything. So for Black men to be intentional in their healing is where we need to be right now, because normally they look at us, when you look at someone like Kawanja Kunjufu, who wrote that book, The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, and he said one of the problems with society, Black boys, is that they make Black boys grow up much quicker than any other child. So the Black boy, by the time he's 13, 14, is looked upon as an adult. You don't have to be rigid and stoic all the time. You know what I'm saying? And you want to be that to your people. You want to be that to your family, to your children, to your wife, to your girlfriend, or whoever. You want to be that for all the people around, because if you have a stoic energy, if you have this hardened energy, then everyone else is going to feel that. But if you have a energy that's full of light and love, then everyone else is going to feel that as well. And so that's what we're doing with this project. We're just continuing that, because it's that time now for Black men. We got to change. And even in hip hop, you're seeing a change. You see a lot of new influences coming in hip hop that you never would have saw. You know what I'm saying? I even look at someone like NLE Chopper and what he's doing. Some people may have an issue with it, but you know what I'm saying? He's bringing in. Yeah,
you're right. You're right. You know what? Speaking of that, I mean, I'm not too sure if it's in the vein of sort of self-care, but when I think about and when I listen to the Dangerfeel Newbies and the type of music that you guys create, something that I heard more recently that I feel like kind of has a little bit of a similar sound, or I like the way that this person is sort of experimenting with music and has been over the years, is Childish Gambino or Donald Glover. So he just dropped a new album maybe about a month ago or so called Atavista, and I'm listening to it, and while it's not the traditional Childish Gambino hip hop with the bars that's how I became a fan of him as a musician, but just seeing what he's doing sonically with music, and this album, and even I think the one that came out right before this one, it kind of reminds me of what you guys are doing, and it's a new age sound. You're pulling elements from so many different genres and just instruments, and not being afraid of I wouldn't even say stepping out of your comfort zone, because I feel as though this is what you guys do, this is who you guys are, but not being afraid of just making music for the masses per se. You have a message, you believe in what you're creating, right? And I think that's really, that authenticity is, at least, you know, I could say for me personally, but also I think people in my generation, as a millennial, and, you know, I could even say for Gen Zers as well, like we appreciate the authenticity in the music and the authenticity behind the music, right? So, you know, it's just interesting, like hearing you guys talk about these things, and you know, I feel what sets you guys apart from other collectives, other groups, you know, just other musicians, right? So, you know, I just commend you guys, and you know, I don't know how much my affirmation, you know, how far that goes, but like, continue to do what you're doing.
Oh no,
it
goes very far, Amandi. And you know what? And you said something very deep, Armandi. I wanted to ask you a question. Are you familiar with the band Salt out of the UK? SAULT?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, I want you to check out Salt too, because that was another inspiration for us. They were a very important group during the pandemic, especially during that whole George Floyd thing. Very, very unique thing that they did. They put out all these records. Inflo was their producer who did all the stuff for Adele, and they're out of Europe, but they even changed like how you present shows. Right. I don't know if you saw, like, Mark, did you see that? Mark, did you see that video of their show and how you got into it and you had to go through the refrigerator door? And
that's dope.
I just want to thank you all, and I'm just awed at the talent. You know, just keep doing what you're doing. And we're going to keep plugging and doing whatever we can do to make sure that people hear you and listen. And
speaking of which, let's make sure, like, we know you guys plugged yourselves. Like, tell the people where to find you, where to find the music, so that way they're reminded, they know.
We're definitely all over all your DSPs, all the digital streaming platforms. So that's Spotify, Apple Beats. We have a Pandora radio station that you can dial in, the Dangerfeel Newbies, and they'll give you our music and others like it. Also, on the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, I mean, all of them. You can find the Dangerfeel Newbies. Really, if you just go to Google and you put in Dangerfeel, that's DANGERFEEL, and Dangerfeel is one word, and Dangerfeel Newbies, that'll pull up all the information. I mean, there's some great articles as well. I mean, we've even ventured off into producing audio documentaries.
Wow.
2 documentaries, one honoring the great poet and activist Nikki Giovanni. Also did a documentary commemorating the 50th anniversary of Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On" and that iconic album. So it's like the Dangerfeel Newbies are, we do our music, but we also venture off into documentaries and other kinds of audio projects, audio tributes and documentaries, and just really creating that space for what Jamal was talking about, that safe space. We're creating that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? Can I say one more thing too? We're also I'm working with Jason Orr from the Funk Jazz Cafe, and we just finished our first film documentary called Stepping Into Tomorrow, which is kind of connected to what we're doing with the Newbies, because we're going to be doing some scoring with that film. But that film is all about jazz post 1960s and how all of that that came from the fusion funk era of the 60s and 70s and even 80s inspired everything that we love now, from Pharrell to Kendrick Lamar, Kamasi Washington. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, and we have so many people in the film who have since passed on, like the great George Duke, Al Jarreau, James Ntume, but then we got people that are still around, like Robert Glasper, DJ Jazzy Jeff, Marley Marl. It's a very beautiful story.
One thing I don't want to let fly by, man, is that thank you to all the dancers out there, man. We got this song, What Am I Here For, that is like an international smash that Jamal talked about. It was remixed by Kai Alce, but that song is on Instagram, it's on TikTok, and it's like people are making these viral dance videos. And they're just like so many of them. They're overseas, they're international. Some of them are here in the States. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who has made a video. I mean, that song is almost 10 years old, and brand new videos right now. They're really supporting it all over the world. So what am I here for? I'll
say that's how that's how TikTok is a huge platform for, I think, notoriety, notoriety, right? Like, you know, you're all over, you're hearing old songs and it's so funny because, you know, I don't necessarily know all of them, but it's funny seeing people who are younger than me get excited and they're doing these dances to songs that I'm like, you don't even know where that comes from. Like, do you even, you know what I mean? And I know I'm not even, I'm still young, you know, so, but it's cool. It revitalizes a lot of music, a lot of artists. And then, you know, they just kind of gain a new following almost. So very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to get you guys back on, but we appreciate it, you know, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank y'all so much, Reggie and Armando. We appreciate y'all. God bless y'all. And hey, let us back on so we can talk some more to you and we'll say something.
No, listen, this was interesting enough, but we will have you guys back on for sure because I mean, you know, it's we love to have you. We loved having you guys on, and like I was saying, this is something that, you know, we've been waiting for, and we're glad we finally got an opportunity to talk to you guys. And yeah, so just thank you, and everybody, please go check out the Dangerfeel Newbies if you have not already. I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm telling you now. Man, that was such a great interview. Thank you again, Jamal and Mark, for being on the show and just for what you guys do, the music that you provide, the movement or the groovement, as I like to say.
Yes.
Yeah, because I like that. I like that one. They're lucky because I definitely would steal that if I wasn't a nice person. But yeah, we just want to thank you guys again for coming on the show, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I know I really did. That was cool. Just learning more about the Dangerfeel Newbies and just what they're about, the type of music that they're involved in, and that they create, and you know, just, you know, the stories behind it all. So yeah, shout out to them. So.
Right. Wonderful. And they're winners, you know, they're definitely winners. And you can use that as our segue.
Yeah, there we go. Well, you know, we're all winners in the Lord's eyes. This
is true. And on the basketball court, it's the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, unfortunately, you are not all winners in America's eyes, or in the world's eyes. So, yeah, you're right. Moving into sports, NBA Finals are done. I'll be honest. I thought they were going to sweep, but shout out to the Boston Celtics, NBA champions. Yeah. Yada, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think you predicted it early on, you know, once things started narrowing down.
Yeah,
you said they were the team to beat.
Yeah, it was pretty easy to kind of see. I mean, you know, being a Mavs fan, this was definitely tough to watch. But, you know, I mean, based off the way that they were playing, and look, if you're a fan of basketball, if you're a fan of watching good basketball, that's what the Celtics were doing. They were playing great, fundamental, clean-cut basketball, and they were just the better team. Luka, I love you. I absolutely do. You're a beast, offensive monster. But, you know, let's be honest. These finals exposed him in his defense. The Celtics were attacking Luka a lot, getting him in foul trouble, or attacking, you know, going at him and then dishing it out and getting easy threes or whatever the case may be. Either way, they were the better team. So now basketball is over until when? When does it come back? Goodness.
October, I think. Yeah. So thank goodness that's over. Baseball's still going on. Braves, they're up and down. Right now they're up.
Right now they're up. You know,
weeks ago they were down. So
somebody came into the store the other day. Or somebody came into the store today actually with a Dodgers jersey on. The Dodgers have been here the past 3 or 4 days playing the Rockies, and actually the Rockies won last night in a walk-off home run. Couldn't believe it.
Wow.
But I think I could be wrong. I don't know. The Rockies aren't really that good, to be honest. But he was like, yeah, he was like, I think it's going to be us this year. You know, the Braves and the Dodgers. I was like, the Braves ain't doing too hot right now. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. You wouldn't know anything about that. But yeah. So hopefully they can turn it around. Obviously, it's a long season, but we all know, it really comes down to the wire after the All-Star game. So
yeah, and let's look at it. Last year, the Braves were on fire. They were well ahead in first place for the most. Once they got in first place, they stayed in first place. They had the best record in baseball.
I mean,
and ended up losing in the second round.
Acuna was the MVP.
Yeah.
broke records and everything, and we lost to the Phillies.
Yeah.
So,
it's,
if there's one team I can't stand, it's the Phillies. So,
right. So, and speaking of baseball, R.I.P. Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid. He was just a phenomenal baseball player, Hall of Famer. I mean, passed away this week, so he will be missed. I think he was in his 90s.
Okay.
And this kind of comes right after, and I think he got to see this, where the Negro League players and their stats were added to Major League Baseball stats.
Oh, nice.
So,
it's crazy that it took that long for something like that to happen.
Yeah,
but
well,
I mean, hey, it's better
baseball,
late than never, I guess.
Yeah, baseball's kind of like that. It's like they don't like to mess with their stats, and they kind of been doing things old fashioned. It's not till people started moving to other sports that they started kind of like bringing in the pitch clock and all this other stuff to kind of modernize the game. But what happened is some of the major stats are now owned by a Negro League player, and that's Josh Gibson. Josh Gibson was one of the best. A lot of people remember Satchel Paige, but Josh Gibson was he was the GOAT. And because they added in his statistics, he is now the number one batting average in baseball. Baseball is 200 years old almost.
Right.
And so he now is number one, and Hall of Famer Ty Cobb is number two, and Ty Cobb is probably rolling over in his grave.
But some people going to be upset.
Well, some people are. I haven't heard a lot of fallout from this. Gibson now owns the on-base percentage record. He is also number one in slugging percentage, eclipsing Babe Ruth. So, and on base, he eclipsed the Hall of Famer Ted Williams and Babe Ruth. So, you've got some iconic baseball players now that are number two. You didn't see as many the fallout like you did when Hank Aaron eclipsed Babe Ruth in home runs. I mean, that was tough. That was tough for Henry Aaron, as he talked about the letters and the death threats. And as he got closer to Babe Ruth's record, a lot of people were threatening, like if you show up. If you come up to the plate, we got you in our crosshairs and things like that. It was horrible.
That's crazy.
He persisted. And I will say this real quickly. If you ever go back, if you haven't seen when he broke Babe Ruth's record, there are two white guys that just run. Right, he's rounding second base, and he's looking over his shoulder like, who are you? It's like these two, and they basically kind of patted him on the back as he was running around. Of course, he picked up the pace because he didn't know what they were going to be doing.
Right.
And I think the police got him, but they were harmless. But I mean, given all of these things, surrounding his breaking the record, the first thought was these guys, what are they going to do? They're coming to get him. So football. College football is coming up, right?
Yup.
Soon.
Yup. That's what we're all waiting on.
Yeah, man.
By we, I mean us.
And professional, they start, I guess, in a week or so, mini camps and stuff like that. So, this is the time, boy, I tell you. Yeah. All I can say is this. With the 12-team playoff, I want to see the Bulldogs in Atlanta in January when the championship game now comes back to Atlanta. So, and hopefully the outcome is number 3 and not what happened last time. It was just so
that was rough.
Ooh, that was rough. And it was even rougher being there, seeing it.
Yeah, I know.
In real time. It was like, and then the walk home, catching the train. Oh my goodness. Oh, I never seen Bulldog fans so dejected in my life. It was bad. It was bad. That's why what happened a couple of years later, the first time around, and even the second time around was so sweet because we were at our lowest low.
I'm ready for the season to start.
Yeah. Do you think Nick Saban being gone from Alabama is going to make a difference?
I think it will make some bit of a difference. I think they're going to try to do everything they can to cover their bases. because they have that missing piece now.
And they got a pretty good coach, so we'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, Nick Saban's hard to. Those are tough shoes to fill. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
So I'm excited, and we can look forward to talking about that. Finally, in entertainment, kudos to your Aunt Regina for another successful season. Production-wise, hadn't come out yet, but they have finished the latest segments or season or whatever they call them, parts, I don't know, of the Upshaws on Netflix. So hopefully soon we'll be able to see the episodes. Maybe
hopefully we don't have to wait too long.
Yeah, maybe later this, I think last year they came out around August. So maybe in August we'll get to see them. And congratulations to them as well, because they have been renewed for the 5th and final season.
Nice.
They get to wrap everything up. And so that's pretty cool too, So can look forward to yet another season after this one, after the 4th season comes out of the Upshaws. And for me, finished watching Star Trek Discovery, the season finale. Interesting. We could talk about it, at some time, but I think there's some controversy around it because they had this thing called a coda, which I didn't know what a coda was, but it's like an epilogue, right? And they shot that after they shot the final episode because they didn't find out they weren't coming back until there were rumors that this would be the last season. But, until somebody tells you that, you kind of hope that you have another season to go.
Right.
They got that call and they were like, okay, now Star Trek fans are going to be a little bit upset if we don't put some closure to, because all the other ones, I think, except for maybe Star Trek Enterprise, everybody else knew that was their final season. So,
But this was kind of sprung on them, though.
Yeah. So they did an extra 12 minutes of kind of going into the future.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Like, with a lot of shows, if they just did that, you know what I mean, it would be helpful than leaving it on a cliffhanger, know? So, and you don't have to do like a full episode, but just give us some context. Give us, something afterwards,
When you're sci-fi, anything, you can go 20, 30 years and see what the people are doing and wrap it up that way. They had, minimal cast. They brought everybody back for like a kind of a dream sequence, and that was it. And then it was only 2 of the principals. So anyway, and of course, I watched the first episode of Don Da Da Don 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 Da Da Don Don.
That's definitely not the right thing, but I know you're talking about House of the Dragon. What'd you think?
Yes.
What'd you think? I watched it too, so they're setting things up. Everybody's getting their troops together, trying to get allied forces.
Yeah.
I like some parts of it, and there were other parts I was like,
Yeah, it was okay. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
It's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I hope
think
so.
this was just setting it up, and spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it. But I liked seeing the Night's Watch, right? And seeing the Stark ancestor, right? And him being like, you have Rhaenyra's son going to ask
for their help
for 2,000 men or whoever they can get for the war against the Hightowers or Allison. And it was cool. That was a bar when he was like, do you really think my ancestors built a 700-foot wall of ice to like keep out the winter or like whatever he said? And he's like, well, what else does it keep out? And he just looks at him and he says, death. And I was like, oh, that's hard. But what's crazy is it kind of sucks because we already know like that wasn't even the top threat in the last season of Game of Thrones. Like it was like Arya Stark defeated the Night King, like, in episode 3, you know what I mean? 4, like, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, don't worry, guys, you're safe. You don't have to worry, okay?
Right. But what I really liked about it was that of the soldiers that he's going to send for the war effort, they're all boomers.
Right. They're like, listen, we can't spare anybody will and able body. Right.
Well, we got some pretty good old men that can still fight. They can still move. I'm like, okay, all right. They're going to send a bunch of boomers to war. There you go. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. And, again, like they're just building their forces and everything. Obviously, Rhaenyra had to grieve the death of her son.
Right. Yeah.
And then in the end, what's interesting is because I don't know if you know this, but in the end when they find Helena, I believe her name is, and Blood and Cheese, the two guys that Damon hired to kill to go in and take a son for a son, right? Because that's the name of the episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting is Helena, she in the book, she actually has 3 children. She has 2 sons and 1 daughter. But in the show, she only has a son and a daughter. And it's much darker in the book because what happens is Blood and Cheese, they basically make her choose. She has to choose which son to kill, right? Which son she wants to die. Mm-hmm. And she actually picks Maylor, who is not depicted in the show. Maylor is her youngest son. So she picks Maylor, and Blood and Cheese end up killing the other son anyway. So then his whole life, he knows that his mom chose him to die. And so that, she's already a little unhinged in the show, right? When she's like, I'm not afraid of the dragons, I'm afraid of the rats and stuff. She's a little crazy already. That takes her over the edge. So that whole ordeal. So that'll probably also take her over the edge in the show. But in the show, they just had them, have a hard time trying to decide on was it a son or a daughter or which, because they look similar. In the book, it's actually she has 2 sons, chooses the youngest son, and then they kill the older son anyway. Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's how it is in the book. But listen, they're setting things up, so I think it's going to be good. It's nice that quality TV is back. That's back. I've also been watching season 4 of The Boys on Amazon Prime. Also good, very gruesome and dark, but that's just how the show is, for those of you who know. So that's back, pretty good. I feel like that's about it for the most part.
Well, that's great. We are getting ready to enter summer, so this is our summer.
Like summer for a while.
I know, right? Man, it's been this dome.
Oppressively hot.
Global warming, it's like 100 degrees in the Northeast. It's crazy.
Yeah, at least it's not humid out here, but boy, does that sun sun gets you though.
Yeah, and the June edition of Boomer and the Millennial comes to an end, but not before we thank you for listening and hopefully subscribing and sharing. And remember, you can always, hear every episode online at our website, boomerandthemillennial.com, and you can even leave us a message.
Which shout out to all the people who have left us questions. We promise we're getting to them.
They're piling up.
What happens is we've been going for long times and
we had interviews
stuff, but we're gonna get to it. I promise. Next episode we will be answering questions.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we know that the millennials can't, y'all can't focus long, and boomers we can't stay up long. So if we have a podcast that's over, an hour and a half, we're gonna lose the boomers. We're gonna lose the boomers to sleep, and we're gonna lose the millennials
because of their attention.
Because they're boring. It's just like they're bored. It's gotta move. So we're trying to find that sweet spot for you. That's why we're kind of on the clock. But again, thank you for listening, for tuning in, for sharing, for being a part of the Boomer and Millennial Nation. We get to call ourselves a nation now.
Are we a nation? Is that what we're doing, or we could be? Is it
we could be a community, or we could be a family.
There's so many options. There's the Boomer Millennial Army.
I think maybe family. Clan. I have. I know. I know the definition of clan, but I just
we don't
bring back. So let's just say Boomer and the Millennial family. We thank you for being a part, and I guess that's it. You got anything else on your mind?
Nah, I think that's it. Shout out again to the Dangerfeel Newbies.
Yes, absolutely.
Again, guys, for being on the show and just blessing us with your music and everything. But other than that, I think that's about it.
We're going to let the music play a little longer at the end, so you can really kind of get that Dangerfeel Newbies vibe in honor
and
of Black
hit a little
music.
Different now that you know the background,
the backstory. Kind of listen to the vibrophones in there. Now you know the story behind that, and also remember sure that, you can find the Dangerfeel Newbies on all your music platforms, as you can find Boomer and the Millennial on all your podcast platforms, some of the same, like Spotify and Apple Music and others. So we want to just remind you that we're all over, and we do appreciate you. And until next time, I am Reggie the Boomer.
And I'm Armani the Millennial. And we're out.
Yeah, we're out. You kind of hesitated there. You remember who you were? You need some Prevagen?
Yeah. No. I think I got it. Here goes that attention span.
Yes, right. You got to go. Peace.
All right. Peace.